Now at 10 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the latest on the search for the person who murdered conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
One classroom video sparks an audit of the entire Texas A&M system. We'll explain the sweeping changes with a late update.
Plus, students run for their lives after a shooting at their Colorado school. The terrifying moments caught on camera.
We'll be taking a look at your weather for the next few days. You're going to feel a lot more humidity in the air and a few warmer days. So we'll be talking about that coming up.
And the Shiner Comanches look for a Week 3 victory versus the Poth Pirates. I'll give you the full pregame preview later on. Sports.
You're watching 25 News Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shauna Curry.
And I'm Don Brubaker. Charlie Kirk, a well-known conservative activist, was killed today in Utah, shot while speaking at a college event there.
Utah's Republican governor calling it a political assassination as authorities search for the suspect. ABC's Olivia Rubin has the latest.
Tonight, shock and outrage after Charlie Kirk, one of the most prominent conservative activists in the country with close ties to President Trump, shot and killed while on stage at a college event.
This is a political assassination.
Kirk was speaking at Utah Valley University on his so-called The American Comeback Tour, answering a question on gun violence when a single shot rang out.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Thousands watching on as Kirk was hit in the neck. Eyewitnesses recounting the unspeakable scene.
I was 15 feet away and it was really hard to witness. As the guy said shooting or shooters or something like that, you just hear the gunshot and I'm sorry, you just see his neck just like open up and there's just like so much blood that just came out. It was horrible.
A security team rushing Kirk to the hospital. We've blurred the video that shows his arm dangling as he's carried to a car. In Washington, bipartisan shock and sadness, tributes pouring in. President Trump, who had a personal relationship with Kirk, ordering flags around the country flown at half-staff.
Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
Kirk was 31 years old. He's survived by his wife, Erica, and 2 young children. For years, Kirk mobilized conservatives around the country, most recently for the MAGA movement, often credited with helping send Trump back to the White House in 2024. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, New York.
While that scene was unfolding, authorities say a student who opened fire at his high school in Colorado wounded 2 classmates, then turned the gun on himself, and he has now died. As Alex Stone reports tonight, investigators are piecing together what happened and what led up to the violence.
It was a student at Evergreen High School who investigators say brought a revolver onto campus and shot his classmates. 2 students were shot. The gunman shot himself, according to investigators. A 4th person, they believe, may have been injured and was transported. You can see in this Ring doorbell video students running from Evergreen High School, scrambling to find safety. Investigators say there were several crime scenes across the campus. The FBI's evidence response team now helping to process those. Meantime, parents rushing to campus, desperate to find their children.
This is the scariest thing you could ever think that could happen. And these parents were really frightened, and so were the kids.
Investigators say they have many interviews to do with the students who saw the shooting unfold, and they plan to search the alleged shooter's family home and his locker at school. We're told the motive for the shooting remains unclear. There are no writings or anything pointing toward why that student allegedly opened fire. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
A 10-year-old student at Shalimar Elementary in Victoria is arrested today for making a false report of a person with a weapon on campus. School resource officers found no one and no weapon, and the student later admitted it was a joke. He was then taken to the Juvenile Detention Center. The sheriff's office says there is zero tolerance for any threats to schools, even pranks. A Victoria man already facing multiple child sex abuse charges has now been indicted on a new count of continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14. Carlos Caceres, a former Victoria ISD maintenance worker, was first arrested in March after a grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of indecency with a child and 1 count of sexual abuse. Officials say this latest charge stems from that same investigation, and the alleged incidents occurred before Caceres was hired by the school district. They are not connected to his job. Well, after years of concerns that cell phones and addictive social media apps distracted students during instructional time, school officials say they are seeing signs of positive change under Texas's new cell phone ban in public schools. To read this full Texas Tribune article, come to crossroadstoday.com. Well, switching over to our weather now, we're feeling a little bit more like summer again.
Yes. Let's go to Mac Pettis with a first look at the forecast. Mac, your thoughts about Refugio County extending its burn ban to mid-October?
Well, I tell you, with these mid-90-degree temperatures, it's hard and it's hot, and anything can trigger off what would be dry brush. So I think it's a cautious thing to do, and I think it's a good thing to do right about now. The last couple of days were very comfortable for us because we had a northeast wind bringing in that dry air, but you can see how the winds have turned around. They're coming up out of the south, so by tomorrow you'll be perspiring a little bit because it's going to be feeling a little bit more like summertime with mid-90-degree temperatures. I'll have all those weather details for you coming up in just a moment.
Firefighters work a large blaze at the Maxim Egg Farm in Wharton County. That fire broke out this morning on FM 442 between Bowling and Lane City. Multiple crews were on the scene, with Wharton police even deploying drones to help emergency teams get a better view from above. Officials say the fire is out, but as they investigate, they're asking people to stay clear of the area. It is not clear what sparked the fire or if anyone was hurt.
Video of a clash over gender identity content in a Texas A&M children's lit class leads to an audit of every college in the A&M system. Texas A&M President Mark Welsh fired senior lecturer Melissa McCool, and College of Arts and Sciences Dean Mark Zoran and department head Emily Johansson were removed for approving content inconsistent with the course's description. A video online showed a student confronting a professor over LGBTQ-related content in the class. Tonight, McCool is disputing her cause for termination and exploring legal options. Here's your viewer poll tonight. Should state leaders influence professors' jobs? Our voters, 62% of them say no. Schools should decide independently. Running second at 23%, yes, they fund public universities, and 15% saying only if laws or policies are broken. We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we thank you for voting.
A local World War II veteran is recalling his early days of service in the Army.
25 News Now reporter Ray Mosley spoke with him to learn more.
Victoria veteran Ed Gregory set his sights on being in the Army at 17 years old amid World War II. Once in the Army, Gregory attended medical school and studied physiology and anatomy and worked in Okinawa, Japan. He remembers that time as educational and made him value life very differently.
We were able to identify the remains of unknowns because families were concerned about when they didn't hear about what happened to their loved one, and we were able to identify those, and then they would be informed that they were found, and that was a great relief to the families.
Gregory took pride in making sure the remains he sent to the families were accurate, and says it was important for him to send the correct remains that belonged to each family. He calls World War II a crucial part of U.S. history and says it changed people's livelihood.
I guess there was about 52 or 53 million people died in World War II because of one person, and it disrupted the families, and it changed the way of life and way things you had to do things to survive during the period of the World War.
Gregory says he's grateful for his experience and has learned a lot about how to deal with people's lives. Ray Mosley, KAVU TV, 25 News Now.
The Field of Honor crew spends this evening placing flags to honor the lives lost on 9/11. Since the flags cannot be lowered to half staff, a black ribbon was attached to each one as a symbol of remembrance. In all, 50 flags will fill the field, and they will stay up through October 14th.
Here are some of the top headlines in the Port Lavaca wave. The Seadrift City Council accepts the resignation of Mayor Lori Thomas, and local Scouting America troops celebrate the 49th Fish O'Ree. To read these stories and more, go to portlavacawave.com.
More Americans could soon feel the sting of President Trump's new tariffs. A Yale study says the hikes could push nearly 1 million people, including children, into poverty by 2026. Experts say lower income families are hit hardest since they spend more of their paycheck on basics, many of which are imported and now cost more. Right now, the Census Bureau says about 36 million Americans are already living in poverty. When it comes to putting money away for retirement, experts recommend that you start saving as soon as possible. Northwestern Mutual studied a variety of factors and found the average amount that Americans believe they will need to retire comfortably is $1.26 million.
That's a lot of comfort. In today's Consumer Watch, Jen Sullivan looks at the types of retirement accounts and how much you should be putting away each year.
The cost of living continues to rise, and that means you'll need more money for retirement. But when should you start saving, and just how much do you need?
There's really no such thing as too early.
Samuel Taub is an investing writer for NerdWallet. Earlier this year, they conducted a survey and found 39% of Americans said not having enough saved for retirement was a financial concern. The most common types of retirement accounts are an IRA, which is controlled by you, or a 401k, which is sponsored by your employer, and many companies will match what you put in.
IRAs typically don't cost anything to open. Even contributing a small amount if you're fresh out of college and waiting tables can still make a big difference down the line.
Here's how much Fidelity Investment suggests you have in savings. By 30, you should have 1 times your salary, and it goes up by age. By 67, you should have 10 times your salary in a retirement account. But a lot depends on where you live and your lifestyle.
If you're living in a high cost of living or even medium cost of living area, that number may be north of $1 million.
Go Banking Rates recently broke down how much you need to retire wealthy. In popular retirement communities like Prescott, Arizona, you need just over $1.8 million to retire for 20 years. In Naples, Florida, you need just under that. Other ways to grow your retirement savings is investing in the market or even cryptocurrencies.
Once you get older and closer to retirement, the general consensus is that you're supposed to shift your portfolio into safer assets like a heavier bond allocation in order to preserve your money against the possibility of a downturn.
A financial advisor can help you reach your retirement goals. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, a new global study is raising concerns about America's health, why younger adults may be most at risk.
Also ahead, the feds move in on a gated estate, what investigators are now revealing.
A multi-million-dollar Georgia mansion, home to the leader of a church that's accused of scamming veterans.
Prosecutors say members of the House of Prayer were pressured into handing over benefits and money while leaders pocketed millions. Liz Owens has more.
A 7-bedroom, 8-bathroom estate listing price $1.96 million, raided by the FBI Wednesday morning. The mansion on Honors Way is located in the gated community of Westlake. Divorce documents tie the name Ronnie Dennis to this address. According to an indictment just unsealed by the feds, the leader of House of Prayer stole the name in 1983 and used it to become an American citizen in 2002, the same year he founded the House of Prayer Christian Churches of America. You might remember that the feds raided several of the churches in 2022, including the church in Hetzibah. Fast forward 2 years, and now Dennis, along with 7 other leaders of the religious organization, are named in an indictment which accuses them of exploiting military personnel by recruiting them into the church, directing them to enroll in the church's seminary, and then using their VA benefits to funnel money into accounts controlled by the church. The indictment goes on to describe how leaders maintained a list of ex-traitors humiliated members for perceived rule violations and how the leaders restricted family members from contacting their loved ones who left the church. The feds say the 8 also committed bank fraud by using straw buyers to seize homes, which they then converted into rental properties, collecting more than $5 million in rent in just 2 years.
Federal agents raided a business in the Chicago suburb of Bensonville this week, part of a multi-state crackdown on illegal vaping products. Authorities say they seized more than 600,000 units, the largest raid of its kind. The products allegedly included illegal flavors, THC vapes, and a kratom-derived compound with opioid-like effects. Officials say many of these products were designed to target children.
A new study says the United States is falling behind other wealthy countries when it comes to reducing deaths from chronic diseases. Researchers looked at data from 185 countries from 2010 to 2019. Most nations had declines in chronic disease deaths, but in the U.S., young adults ages 20 to 45 actually had an increase. Overall, Denmark saw the biggest improvements, while the U.S. and Germany ranked at the bottom. The researchers say gaps in access to care and rising rates of conditions like dementia may be driving the trend. Safety advocates are urging all parents to keep young children safe in vehicles by knowing how to install and use car seats correctly.
In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks with a pediatric emergency medicine doctor about how to make sure that your child is in the right seat.
It remains a leading cause of death for youth in the U.S. In 2023, motor vehicle crashes killed more than 1,000 children ages 14 and younger.
Many of the children who are injured or killed in a car crash are either completely unrestrained or using a restraint improperly.
Dr. Manisha Agarwal with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says the most important thing parents can do to keep children safe on the road is to use the right seat in the right way. First, make sure to buy the right car seat. Very young children need to ride in rear-facing seats as long as possible until they hit the maximum height and weight suggested on the seat. Then, a forward-facing seat is the next step, followed by a booster seat. Check the seat's manual for maximum height and weight limit.
And if you've thrown out the instruction manual, most of these car seat manufacturers have really helpful websites where you can find that manual and figure out what that height and weight limit is.
Next, make sure the seat is properly installed. The Safe Kids Worldwide organization says use either the seatbelt or lower anchors to secure it. Don't use both at the same time. Forward-facing seats need a tether with the seatbelt or lower anchors. A properly fitted harness can also provide protection. Agarwal says a child passenger safety technician found at some places like fire stations can help make sure your seat is set up correctly.
You may be the world's safest driver, but you cannot account for every other human being out there on the road.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Dr. Agarwal says while a used car seat may be cheaper, you cannot always know its history, so it's safer to buy new.
And she also warns seats do expire as plastics weaken, so check the label to be sure yours is still safe.
Here are some of the top headlines in the Cuero Record. All cities in DeWitt County saw increases in sales tax revenue for the year, and the Yorktown City Park gets upgrades. To read these stories and more, visit DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, good evening, everybody. We are looking at 77 degrees right about now, and not nearly as cool as it was earlier this week. We got up to 92, which is right on the money for this time of the season. We are looking for that Gulf air to roll back in, so it's going to be feeling a little warmer, actually kind of like summertime for the rest of the week. We'll talk about that after this. So it looks like it's going to feel a little bit more like summertime as we get into the balance of this week. But then again, when is the question, when is a fall officially begin? Well, it begins on the 22nd of September, so we got a couple of days for that. But think about this, the sun is lower on the horizon. We get less solar heating because the days are getting shorter. And all these things combine to actually break the heat soon. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. We, of course, were on the dry side of everything since that front that came through over the weekend brought us the big rain. That moisture has been staying down south, and now it seems to be rolling back up into our region. While we were again high and dry today, still tropical moisture rolling along the deep South Texas coast, and you can see how the shower activity was sort of off and on. No significant problems there, no severe weather, but I'm sure everybody in the valley is appreciating any drop of rain they can get right now as we head on into the fall season. The fall is great, but you know, not necessarily when we get our biggest rain. While we had nothing, look at that, they did get some nice shower activity way down south, so I'm sure everybody's happy about that. For us, in addition to the fact that we've had the dry air, which has been good, because it got cool at night, 65, and now we want to show you this. This is air pollution problems in Houston and Austin to San Antonio. Everybody's driving, and every car does exhibit leak what are called emissions, out of the tailpipe, and they begin to add up. And if we don't have a big wind to blow it away, it sort of sets there and cooks with the sunlight, and you get air pollution problems. Now, also, the very interesting thing is that today is the peak of the tropical storm season. On the average, the majority of storms will be occurring right here on September the 10th, and that's today. Well, you can see how the drop-off will occur about number of storms. I just think this drop-off is going to be much faster. I think by the end of this month. I'll tell you why. First of all, frontal systems are really moving throughout much of North America. So even if there was a tropical storm out there, it wouldn't get to the mainland because it would be running opposing winds. Now, there is one little area that may develop into a tropical storm over the next 7 days. That's way out in the Atlantic, nothing to worry about yet. And then this one is definitely going to be a problem. It's going to be right off the coast of Mexico, and hopefully it doesn't turn either way, because otherwise it's going to be a problem. So let's take a look at our temperatures. Overnights will still be fairly comfortable. Mornings, you're going to like it when you get out there in the morning, because we're looking at about 70 degrees. Now, you know, 65 obviously is better than that, but 70 is not bad. Daytimes, however, will be getting warmer, and we'll start a little perspiration out there because the humidity is going to be on the increase. We were 35% yesterday. We'll probably be in the 60% as we get there. And you can see right about here as we go into Thursday and on into Friday, you can see that moisture streaming onshore from the Gulf and rolling back into our area. So you'll see a lot more clouds tomorrow. It'll be a little bit more humid and a high of about 92. In Cuero, you're getting up to about 95 with a little bit more cloud cover, and 1 or 2 isolated little showers in the afternoon are possible, but I wouldn't call it anything that would be anything to write home about. That is your 7-day forecast. Your weekend still looking in the mid-90s. Want to remind everybody we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. And we'll toss it over to Maxwell with sports for tonight.
Yeah, Mac, Texas A&M Victoria hosts Texas Wesleyan tomorrow afternoon to highlight both teams and one player that's getting big-time honors for the women's soccer team. That's coming up in sports. Shiner Comanches are looking to improve 3-0 this week versus the Poth Pirates, and the Comanches have star talent there, wide receiver Jarvis Williams and the running back Quincy Jones. But you also got to keep an eye on their quarterback as well, and Jake Simper, who looks to make a big impact this week versus Poth. And they've beaten Jorgensen there for the Poth Pirates in the first game, their 2019. Then they beat Falls City 53-0. But for them, they got a star wide receiver in Ethan Harris, who's made some big time plays out there for the Pirates. So both teams trying to see if they can get that big time third win. Again, for Shiner, they still have 2 more non-district games there, with next week going to Industrial and then the following week going to Luling before they start district play on October 10th. Now over to some Thursday night football, where the Ocampo Ricebirds are facing the Doles Vikings in the Houston area there tomorrow night. The Ricebirds, they beat Warden there in week 1, 41-18. Then the Brian Rudder in the Rangers 30-0 there in week 2. Ridge Spinrath was still around for the Ricebirds. He's still making big time plays. He's already over at least 400 yards passing from the previous 2 games. He's got a great defense around him that's made a lot of plays there. And again, they've only allowed 18 points in total from Warden. So they're hoping to kind of bring that here into tomorrow's game. And James Dordick and Game Figueroa have been huge for the Ricebirds' success. Now, from those 2 teams that I mentioned, that one of those teams that I talked about was Shiner, that's in the new Dave Camel's rankings that came out there back there on Monday, and a couple other teams were in the top 10. So we're going to start in the 4A ranks with the Cuero Gobblers. They're all the way up to number 7 in 4A Division 2. Then in 3A, we have the Tidehaven Tigers at number 2 in 3A Division 2. Then Edna, after their tough loss last week to the Bay City Blackcats, moved down to number 9 in 3A Division 1. But 2A Division I, it's still the two teams that we kind of are familiar with. They're Fairfield Bobcats #1, again NATO at #2, and then finally, team I just talked about there in the Schneider Comanches in 2A Division II are ranked at #2 right now, and again with an early 2-0 there record to start off the season. So we'll see if any of these changes go up for the rest of the way. Now over to, again, Texas A&M Victoria, where they're going to start off having their first game against Texas Wesleyan. The women's team is going to start there at 1 p.m., while the men's team will start at 3:30 p.m. facing Texas Wesleyan. This team looks to get kind of some more offensive production there from Bella Artley and then Ailani Garcia there for the women's team. Now for the men's team, they're currently 1-2 right now, and their senior Bailey O'Reilly and Josh Loveridge have kind of been huge for the team, but their goalkeeper, Tyler Capelli and Eric Thoss, have been huge as well. They've not allowed any goals past the net there for the start off here, at least from the first couple of games, only just allowed just one. So they're hoping to keep that success. They're behind the net there versus Texas Wesleyan at 3:30 p.m. And finally over to the Houston Astros. They face the Toronto Blue Jays tonight, and the Astros win 3-2 as Yainer Diaz had 2 RBIs tonight to get the victory for the Stros over the Blue Jays. Now they're going to have their last game versus the Blue Jays tomorrow afternoon there at 2:07 p.m. And that's going to do it here in sports. Don, Shauna, back to you.
Max, thank you, and stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. We'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, the right time to put up your outside Christmas decorations is, well, if you ask two brothers from Pennsylvania, the answer is now.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Tonight, Bryan Cranston, Christopher Lloyd, and music from Say She She. So say you'll join us after the late news on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
A Purple Heart from World War I has been returned to the family of Sergeant Thomas Flynn decades after it was locked away in a Massachusetts safe deposit box. Flynn was wounded in combat and honored for his bravery. Then his wife Mary, after he passed, put the medal in the safe deposit box before she died in 1992. Well, the state's unclaimed property division ended up with it. They traced it back to his family, who say the return is a powerful reminder of their military legacy. Wow. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. All right. Singles in the Twin Cities, that's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, are swiping left on dating apps and trying something new. Pitch a Friend events. Packed into local breweries, friends make PowerPoint presentations to help match each other up. The trend started in Philadelphia and has now spread to several cities. Organizers say it's catching on because of dating app burnout. A Forbes survey found 1 in 4 users feel exhausted from swiping. Participants say having friends do the pitching feels more genuine and way more fun. I used to be against these dating sites, but then the daughter of my best friend met someone on there. They're happily married. Their second child is on the way. So I guess there's something there. I just, you know.
I mean, and this makes it a fun social event with other people around, and you know, just changes
doing
it
it that
up a
way,
little bit.
but doing it on the
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These get-togethers are a lot more fun.
And half the time, they're really not that cute, you know.
I mean, you make sure you get a best date and your best laptop, too. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
That's right. Otherwise, you don't know what you're getting. Folks, we are looking at a little bit more humidity over the next couple of days, but by and large, it's going to be sunny and warm, feeling a little bit more like summer as the humidity starts to increase. We may see 1 or 2 little garden variety showers, but no major severe weather anywhere in sight through the next 7 days.
All right, we do know what we're going to get with the weather, at least. Well, check this out. It might still feel like summer, but one Pennsylvania family is already getting into the Christmas spirit. The Harhut family has spent decades transforming their home into a holiday hotspot, a tradition that draws visitors from near and far. The massive display doesn't go up overnight, though. It takes months of planning, with two brothers leading the charge and plenty of help from family and neighbors. They've collected decorations from across the country, and the lights officially go on Thanksgiving night, running through New Year's Day. I'm barely getting my fall decorations out.
I was going to say.
If they put that much work into it, why don't they just keep them up all year? Because it looks like it'd be a very difficult thing. Turn them down, put them up, you know, it's like year
It's
after
just
year.
the weather, you
No,
know,
that's true.
snow
That's
and
true.
all of that. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Join 25 News Now sunrise at 5 a.m. Jimmy Kimmel Live starts now.